everyone, welcome to September. Can you believe it? It's a whole new month. I cannot believe how autumnal we already are, both in terms of the actual day and the weather. 2020 has indeed been a very strange, meandering, enlightening journey for us all, and it just feels like summer's just been this kind of edgy, squished up kind of powerhouse of energy. It kind of in the middle of the whole thing. I don't know how you guys are feeling. Tell me how you're feeling. I know I'm feeling that, we had this long watery Cancerian season that seemed to go on forever this year, kind of very high emotions, lots of quick change, lots of left turns, which we saw reflected in the global situation as well as internally and personally in our individual lives and experiences. And then the fire season, which I love normally. Traditionally, it's really this big summer powerhouse and vitality and heat and energy and projection, looking forward, ideas. We had it, but it was just like that, so quick. I know last time we talked was around the Leo moon, and I was feeling so powerful and ready for fire and ready for progress. And that all happened really quickly, but then almost as fast, the energy has shifted again, and I know that my channeling and that of everyone that I follow and read is reflecting this same kind of sudden depletion as we shift out of August into the month of September and into what is coming in tomorrow as a Pisces full moon, and then into Virgo season. And that fire of the Leo summer, of the harvest, of Lammas, has all just been quite quickly compressed and quite quickly flattened, I'm feeling. So this is a really interesting moon. The Pisces full moon, which in the UK is going to land just about 6:20 a.m. Wednesday morning, the 2nd. So in terms of when you do your practice, when you engage with this session, when you do your own readings and journaling, really any time, kind of 48 hours either side of the full moon is a good time. But I personally find that actually just after the moon is the best, because the energy can be so intense coming into a full moon, especially a very powerful big one. Like Pisces, that often it's just a bit too much to try and navigate that in the days before. And I know today, I'm sitting here on the 1st of September, I'm definitely feeling the energy peaking, like coming to a crescendo. And that's really normal. So if you're feeling really up and down these last couple of days and really sensitive and vulnerable, these are definitely very consistent energies with what's going on cosmically. So don't worry about those at all. Just bank them, note where you are, witness them, and hopefully they're going to really be supported during your session tonight. The Pisces full moon is, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So if any Pisceans are watching, you may be aware that you are the 12th house. Aries is the first, child of the zodiac. And Pisces, by virtue of being the last, kind of is a amalgamation of all the rest. He has aspects of all the other signs, and he's got all of their learnings and wisdom. The theory is you've been on a whole journey through the zodiac by the time you reach Pisces. So in some ways that's wonderful. That's that kind of that almost elderly wisdom, an old soul kind of wisdom that you get from life experience. But also there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of baggage, a lot of history, a lot of learning. There's a lot of stuff that maybe hasn't been released that needs to move on. So Pisces is known in terms of the solar astrology as being extremely vulnerable, sensitive. It can be a very touchy time. If you have a lot of Piscean energy in your life or in your chart or in the chart of someone you live with or love, you will probably recognise that sometimes it can be a little eggshell. You have to be quite careful what you say and how you say it. And that's very consistent with the lunar energy as well, except we're going inwards with our lunar energy. It's all about our inner landscape. So in fact, it can be even more heightened and more powerful. The Pisces moon is a real opportunity by virtue of being the last, I think, for a reset, for a clear out. And I think especially in the context of this very bizarre, unusual, unique year that we're in, it definitely feels like it's time for a bit of a cleanse, a tone, a moisturise, a refuel, and ready to go into the new season, into autumn, with a slightly different perspective, maybe having actually banked some of these learnings that we've taken in. And I'm really excited about this moon. I was really excited about Leo. I was really excited about the fire season. I'm still carrying a lot of fire, which we'll talk about as we move into the crystals work of this evening. But I definitely feel like a September, there's that new term energy, isn't there? All about going back to school, back to college. It's time to get your new wardrobe out. I spent yesterday clearing my wardrobe, I've got a bag for charity, a bag to go to textile recycling, a bag of bras to go to the breast cancer charity, and I feel really good for having cleared out. And this is a really cathartic time for that kind of a cleanse. So much like a spring being a great time for a spring clean, I think that this September, early September, is a really good time for a deep clean, getting down into the roots of all that stuff that we've been building up and carrying as we've moved through this year and through the zodiac year as well. So that's since last September. Let's talk about Pisces rituals. So Pisces is a water sign, as I'm sure many of you are aware. And one of the things I wanted to talk about this evening actually was about this idea of Ayurvedic balance and of elemental balance. I work such a lot with the elements, as you know, and with shamanism and with working out in nature. It's why it's so fantastic to be here in this teepee that I have on the cliffs in Cornwall, frustratingly off-grid, I know, for many of you that try to reach me by phone or email, but it is a great place to be. It really helps you connect with nature in a way that we just don't. Even when you live in a rural area, and I live in rural Cornwall, it still can be really hard to really connect with the elements around us. And we talk a lot in these sessions and a lot with all the ritual tools I use about the kind of the prevailing energy. And the prevailing energy for Pisces is heightened, sensitive, a little bit delicate, very emotional, very watery. It's very much about the sacral chakra. However, if we just fuel our rituals and fuel this season with more water, actually we're going to drown, because this is already a very intense, heavy energy. And what would be great, I think, is to bring a little bit of lightness to it. So I want to talk to you a little bit about Ayurveda, not loads. It's not my specialist subject. It's something I study and as part of yoga. And actually I'm doing a training next month with the wonderful Karen at Falmouth Yoga Space. Do look her up. But Ayurveda basically teaches us that we all are composed of different aspects of elements. So we can be more fire, more air, more water. So Pitta is fire, Vata or Kapha. And the thinking is, like, I'm a very Pitta constituency. I'm very Pitta, so very fire. So if I just keep giving myself fire, I'm going to just overheat and boil and get too hot and be uncomfortable, both physically, internally, emotionally, spiritually. So one of the ways we work in Ayurveda is to say, okay, this is your diagnosis, you are fire. How do we add a little bit of water to cool down the fire, to dilute it slightly, to bring it down? But then how do we keep some air in there, which, also we need to get the fire going, but also it can help control the fire. So it's really interesting to think about the balances in yourself. And when I do astrology readings, which I know I've done with many of you watching, the reason we do the little triad, sun, moon, rising sign, is just to give you a little top level insight into the key components of your energetic being, of your elemental makeup. For example, and I use myself just because it's easy, I know it really well, I'm a Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn. So I've got water, I've got fire, and I've got earth, but I've got no air, and actually I've got almost no air anywhere in my chart. And I need air. You need air to get fire going. You need air to cleanse the earth, to blow the dust away. So it's really important that I find ways to put air into my practices, into my rituals, in order to bring myself into balance. And that's the kind of logic I want to apply to today's session. This Pisces moon is heavy. It's in a way, it's light with the end of the season. It's light because it's, a full moon, a completion of a cycle is always as much about the new beginning around the corner as the ending. But we need to get through the ending first. And this moon is about the end of a big lunar cycle, the end of the whole of the journey through the zodiac. So what's really good to do is to have a look at all of the stuff that you're carrying coming into this moon. Get journaling. I can't emphasize enough how supportive and fantastic journaling is as a ritual tool. And just see what's coming up for you, because you may find that you're carrying a lot of anger or frustration or kind of hot energy. Or you may be feeling, I think a lot of us are feeling very depleted, just worn out, really tired, quite heavy, earthy energy where you just want to lie down and just kind of rest a lot at the moment. So do a bit of a self-assessment, a bit of a self-diagnosis. Where are you elementally? How are you feeling? And that's going to really help how you move forward with this ritual and with all of your rituals going forward, because it's not just about me saying, here's the stuff we're going to use this month. I mean, this is a group session, so I can give you an overview of how I'm being drawn to certain energies and what I am channeling is for the greater good right now. But you know personally how you're feeling. So actually, if you're feeling full of fire right now, then maybe a little bit of dilution is important. If you're really feeling the Pisces vibes big time and you're very watery, really emotional and reactive, which is the prevailing energy, so it's the one most of us will be affected by, then maybe we need to think about a bit of air to dry that water out, or a bit of earth to counterbalance. So that in mind, let's talk some crystals. I'm, as you can see in my teepee, and that means I forgot to bring some of the herbs that I was going to use for smudging. I was listening to a really good podcast the other day, and I think I've mentioned Amy Rushworth's podcast to you guys in my newsletter before, so I do recommend you look her up. And there was a really good one on crystals, which I know the girl who was being interviewed, and I thought it'd be great to listen back to while I did my big deep clean clothes sort. And she was saying something really interesting about using herbs for smudging. I mean, I always use white sage. I bring it back from a farm in California where it's native, and I've always used lots of it, and it is a very native herb, and it's something, you know, I'm connected to in terms of shamanic training and study, and I've spent a lot of time looking into the use of this herb in indigenous ways. It's good to do that, and this is what Olivia was saying on the podcast I was listening to, and it reminded me to share it back and credit her for that it's, you know, white sage is a sacred herb. It's not just about, you know, creating some sacred smoke. It's very sacred to the native people, and it's very, you know, it's not super rare, but it's getting there, and it's really important to use it with consideration and to source it really well. You know, really make sure you're getting it direct from a really great farm who are actually working sustainably and ethically and organically. There's certain brands that are really wonderful that I can recommend, and I can do that on my blog in the next few days for you. And there are a few places in England growing it. It's quite hard to grow here because of the climate, but there's a few hot houses I know of on the south coast that I'm trying to encourage some local growth with. However, sage is one of many wonderful herbs. You can create a smudge from your garden, and one of the ones I was going to use today that I completely forgot to bring was lavender. Lavender obviously is very native to England. You can access it really easily here. You can grow it in a pot in your garden, on your balcony, in your kitchen, and it's a really calming, soothing herb. Really wonderful for water energies. I've got a lot of water in my chart. I use it a lot for both oils and in plant work. And I think adding lavender to your sage, particularly during a water moon, and especially for this Pisces one, is a really good way to get some extra kind of protection, some extra soothing calmness into this quite, not feisty, but quite temperamental energy. So I've got a brand new smudge stick today. I love starting a lovely new one. If you have a smudge stick already, you can simply grab a bit of twine, make sure it's natural, hasn't got any chemicals in it, then they're going to burst into flames. And you can just bind a little more twine around your existing smudge to attach your lavender to the outside. If you're making one from scratch, and those of you that get my Rock and Ritual subscription will have had a lavender and rosemary a couple of months ago, you can see they're literally just plucked from the garden, bound together, and then hang them upside down just in your kitchen or your airing cupboard or somewhere where there's going to be a bit of dry air. And you'll find within a few days they're crisp enough and ready to burn and to create some sacred smoke with. So we're going to get the lovely new white sage going. And when you're lighting your smudge, you just want to get a little bit of flame going for 10 or 15 seconds. These big ones can be quite tough to get going with a flame, but they smoke pretty quick because of the scale, the size of the leaves. And I really like to use loose leaf sage as well. So wands are really useful when you're working a lot with sage. But the loose leaf is really amazing, and I really like to put that in a little bowl, which again I know many of you have. I think maybe we'll put a pack of loose leaf in, maybe in the Libra Rock and Ritual. We haven't done that for a while. And you can just get your sage going, and the first thing to do is sage yourself. So I start up at the crown, and coming down through the chakras, through the third eye, the throat and the heart, the solar plexus, the sacral and the root. And it's also really good to sage your feet. When you're somewhere amazing like I am here at Kudva, you're generally only picking up amazing energies and really positive energy, but if you've been on the tube today, particularly at the moment, you know, there's such a lot of strange energy out there in the world and out there in the street. You really want to make sure that you're approaching your rituals with some clarity, that you're not drawing loads of other people's energy that may not be that beneficial to you or your tools into your space. As I've got this going, I'm also going to sage my instruments for when we move on to the sound shortly, and I've got the camera set quite low at the moment so that I can show you the crystals properly. So I'll probably pop out of your shot for a moment as I sage all of the bowls and just get everything ready to rock and roll. And this is really important when we're working whether with sound, with vibration, with crystals, any other form of ritual that you're engaging with. It's really beneficial to start with a clean slate. You wouldn't eat your dinner off a dirty plate, so why would you start your ritual without everything being nice and cleansed? I did promise you, so loose leaf sage is, this is a bit burnt up because I was using it last night in here. But you can just put it in a little bowl. You can either put a charcoal disc underneath, light the disc and smoke it from underneath, or you can just do exactly the same thing and smoke it from on top. I'm going to use that as a little stand. So, crystals for the Pisces full moon. The classic Pisces crystal is Amethyst, which is a really accessible, easy one. Loads of us have lots of it around. Here is some I made earlier. So you can have a beautiful raw amethyst. This is a lovely polished point which I use a lot in my grids. So that's a good point to make actually. One of the other things I wanted to talk to you about today was the difference between raw and polished stones and how we work, how we choose between them. I'm personally much more drawn to a raw stone. I think, you know, it's kind of the way you can think about organic food. If things haven't been adjusted from their natural state, I believe their power to be more intense. That's just my personal feeling, and I just aesthetically like seeing the kind of the nature in the raw stones. I don't mind a point. I've got a few points which I do quite like. I think they're really useful for Reiki if you're attuned and you're practicing Reiki master or practitioner. A point is a really great way, and if you're working with Wicca or any other kind of spell casting, it's a great way to draw the energy and to kind of transmute the energy into the centre of your grid so you can draw it in one go. So I do tend to like to use a point in the centre of my grid, which is why I have a few. But overall, I would generally point you towards raw crystals as you're growing your crystal collection and exploring working with these pieces of earth and earth magic. Do you kind of take your time to see what resonates for you? And maybe you are more drawn to polish, and that's fine. But I would say that I personally find that raw stones tend to be more powerful when I use them in practice. So explore at will. Tumble stones, which are these little guys that I use a lot for grids, obviously are polished, and for me they're the least powerful in terms of using them for personal work. However, they're very useful for grids where you're trying to put down a lot of stones simultaneously, or you're trying to work on somebody's body when I do a crystal Reiki session with multiple stones and chakras. So tumblers are really good to have around. They're generally really cheap and accessible. Do beware, made in China. It's really good if you're going into your local crystal emporium to check your sourcing, find out where they buy from, find out who their wholesalers are, and then look them up, find out where they buy from. There's lots of really good ones in the UK. There's also lots of cowboys, as for all these things. So it's really good just to make sure that you are getting the real deal. And again, that everything is sustainable. There's, as with the fine gemstones, there's a really big market in unsustainable crystals, which are being mined particularly unethically in certain parts of the world. So it's really important to do your homework and be confident in your supplier. And again, if you need recommendations for online suppliers, there's loads of great people doing Instagram sales, which is a really good resource if you don't have a good crystal shop near you. And I can let you know a few of those people I recommend that I buy from and who I believe to have a really good sustainable policy. So, raw polished tumble. We talked loads before about cleansing your crystals. I'm using my smoke today to cleanse them. It just feels right because I often cleanse mine in water, and that would make sense for a Pisces moon, but I feel a bit like there's just a lot of water around, there's a lot of emotional energy, and I'm feeling that for me personally, actually what's really important for this moon is to bring some of that heightened water energy down. I definitely feel like I need a bit more fire. The fire season was over a bit quick for me. I've got more fire to give, I've got more fire to light, and I definitely feel like for me personally that's my focus for this moon. So that's what I'm bringing to this ritual today. Light's going out a little bit. I'm going to be a little bit more fire oriented than perhaps you would normally be for a Pisces moon, and that is simply because that is how I feel I'm going to be able to deliver the best session for you guys. So amethyst is the traditional Pisces crystal, but it's not what I'm going to use today, because I think that the the amethyst kind of energy, very intuitive, very third eye, is something we always want to bring into our sessions. It's an amazing tool for sound journeying. I think amethyst is always a great crystal to have around if you're looking to access the third eye. But I definitely feel like we're in a place where we need a bit of pulling down from this heightened energy and very vulnerable, sensitive vibe that we're in right now. So I'm going to go for Smoky Quartz as my centerpiece. So I'm going to use this point, which is one of my oldest, it's one of the first crystals I ever got. It's still one of my favourites. This Smoky Quartz is going to be the centre point of our grid today, which we're using Metatron's cube. I'll just show you before I fill it up. I don't know how well you can see that on the camera. But Metatron's cube basically contains the sacred geometry of all the building blocks of life, all the core shapes. So the thinking is this is a very protective grid, which is really good as we approach a potentially volatile full moon. But it's also a grid that's really connecting you to all the different elements and all of their different energies. And as I am really labouring my point here, I just think we have to be mindful of too much water, although we will talk about ways to use water in ritual for this season shortly. I just want to show you as well this amazing Smoky Quartz. This is a fairly new acquisition and he is so beautiful. I do sometimes use big rocks like this at the centre of a grid. So I've only got my little grid today, so we're just going to use the point, but he's got this sort of double faceted aspect, which is super interesting, and I think this can be really nice to hold if you're doing a heart meditation. This is a really nice one to place at your roots, so you can maybe hold it down here. Smoky Quartz I've selected because it is a very earthy crystal. It's really grounding. It really helps to ground chaos and deep kind of mental stress and trauma, and really ground it down to earth and help you feel a lot safer and more stable. It works with the root chakra and also with the earth star chakra, which is off the base of the feet, because it rules your connection to earth. So I think this is a particularly wonderful stone to work with, and I think Smoky is such a great stone anyway. It's one that's really powerful and grounding, and I think if you're feeling a bit heightened and cosmic, sometimes pulling yourself down out of that headspace into the earth is really beneficial. So I'm going to pass my Smoky Quartz through the smoke, and as I'm doing that, I'm not just watching the smoke, I'm watching it kind of absorb into the surface and wrap itself around the crystal. But I'm also in my head asking this crystal to release any previous work that's not needed for this session, to offer some grounding support to anchor the grid, and to offer guidance for me and for all of you as we move into this new September month and this full moon phase. There it goes. My sage doesn't really want to stay lit today, even though it's so big. That's a case in point of needing to light your sage and let it burn, let the flame burn before you blow it out. Okay, also on the grid, so a lot of the other stones that are really traditional of Pisces are the L's and the A's. So Ametrine, Smoky Amethyst is a goodie, Aquamarine, Clear Quartz, obviously, the master healer, and Clear Quartz is, I read something the other day about it being like a cosmic computer. Stores all the information, stores everything up, and then just releases what you need when you need it, cleanses what you need cleaning at exactly the right time. It's such a magic stone, so we will be working with some of that as well today. Other stones that are quite Piscean that we are going to use include, let's see what else I've got here. So Lepidolite, one of my favourites at the moment. I'm really using this loads. And I've got some raw Lepidolite, which I'm really pleased about because it's so beautiful when it's raw. Hopefully you can see a little bit of that. It's kind of like slices, a bit like highlight in that way, little chunks. And it's got this beautiful kind of violety lavender opalescent surface, which I think is really alluring and really beautiful. So Lepidolite is a stone of transition, and it's really great for dissipating negative energies, which is something I know I feel like I'm carrying a lot of into this full moon. It's also really a stone of the future. It's about looking forwards, really kind of trying to activate progress and activate your kind of approach to the future, so you stop getting stuck in old habits and old behavioural patterns, limiting beliefs, going back to that same old grudge, that same old conversation that won't leave you. And I think particularly in Pisces, where there's a bit of a tendency for grudges, kind of like Scorpio, and a bit of a tendency to hang on to stuff and hang on to deep emotions, Lepidolite is really supportive and helping to just softly release them. It's really good, as I mentioned, for behaviour patterns. If you really notice that you just keep reacting the same way to something and it's coming up in your journaling, you're really wanting to let go of it, this is a really good tool. So we're going to put some Lepidolite across our grid. So another stone which is kind of traditional Pisces, it's a water stone. It also comes up for Scorpio a lot. There's a lot of alignment between those two particular water signs. Is Labradorite, which has also got this slightly pearlescent vibe, and I'm using tumblers for this one, so you probably can't see too well on camera, but they're kind of like beigey grey with little shots of indigo and gold through them. They're really beautiful, and they're beautiful decor pieces, although I hasten to add that crystals are not decor, they're not paperweights, they're not home objects as they often are sold now. Of course you can use them that way, and I do. I've got them all over my house in every room, and I move them around all the time. It's important you keep cleansing them, that you spend time with them, seeing if they're comfortable where they are, if they want to be moved, if they might better serve you in a different space. They're not just designed to be put in one place and left. But Labradorite is a great one when it's really big, so have a look for those. And Labradorite is really great for the ascension process, for getting up, kind of the opposite way to Smoky Quartz, for coming up from the centre of the body up to the third eye in the crown. So it's really good for helping us tap into these introverted lunar vibes, which is what Pisces is all about. Pisces is represented by the moon in the tarot. It's kind of the ultimate lunar card. And the other thing Labradorite is really wonderful for is removing other people's projections. So when you're taking on energy from other people that might be damaging, that's kind of getting absorbed and sitting in your biofield, Labradorite's perfect for shifting that on. So that's going to live on our grid as well, which I'm very happy about. Aquamarine is a traditional Pisces stone, and it's also a really good Virgo stone, and it's one I've been using a lot this summer. We used it for Aquarius for the full moon at the beginning of August, and it's just a stone that is very consistent with water energies. It's a real kind of intuition guide. It really helps us to understand our place within the elements, our place on Earth and with Earth. So it feels really relevant to me as we move in towards this age of Aquarius, early next year, early 2021. To really be working with these kind of Aquarian overviews. So I think Aquamarine's kind of here to stay at the moment. It feels like a really relevant crystal to be working with consistently. I am going to use a little Amethyst, even though, as I said, it's something I don't necessarily want to dial up for this season. It's always important to include, and I do find it so helpful in any sort of sound work. I love to have Amethyst near people's crown, near their third eye, perhaps holding it to help them really get the most out of their sound session when they're here in person. And because I feel so strongly that we're just in quite a heightened season, I'm going to add a bit more Smoky Quartz. These are just little tumblers. I'm going to grid around the outside, almost creating like a kind of a holding space, like a container, to try and really keep this energy from raging out of control. And that's a really big part of how I'm feeling about it, and how I think this Piscean moon is playing out for a lot of us. The last thing I'm going to add is Selenite, which is the kind of the classic stone of the moon. This is one that you should not put in water. So if you are going to go for the full-on water ritual this month, beware putting Selenite in water. It's very flaky. It tends to degrade quite badly in water and salt. So this is one that you should always clean with smoke, or some other way other than the water option. I'm going to grid that around the edge, so the Selenite and the Smoky Quartz combined are making a bit of a grid to really contain the energy. I haven't used black tourmaline on this grid, but it's one that I would also really recommend. It's a really, like selenite, got that kind of fibrous structure. I've just dropped a bit, shows how flaky it can be. And black tourmaline is another really grounding, supportive stone, particularly through change and transition. I heard someone say, in fact, on that same podcast, that they like to hold two pieces beneath their feet to really work with the Earth Star chakra, which isn't something I've tried, but I'm going to try it. It sounds great. I'm just going to let that plane go overhead. And black tourmaline is really, really great at transforming really heavy, thick, dense energy into something lighter, really lifting the vibration. And I just feel this Pisces moon just does feel a little bit heavy. It's not negative. I don't want you to be thinking, oh God, she's being so moody about the moon. But it is a heavy one. You know, it's got the work of 12 months journeying, 12 signs journeying. It's an old sign. It's got a lot of experience, and it's got a lot of stuff it hasn't let go of. And a lot of stuff it's very sensitive to. So it's just important to really consider that whilst putting together our grid and putting together our ritual for this season. So black tourmaline could go on your grid. I haven't got loads of it with me today, so I'm just going to keep it to one side and it's going to sit with the cards as we work through our session today. So that is our grid. And I encourage you, if you are working with crystals whilst you're watching this, to just take a few moments as I'm chattering to spend a bit of time with your own grid. And remember that these are all just guides. There are so many crystals out there. I'm fortunate that at the moment I have loads, but you know, they come and go. They find you and they leave you. And even if you've only got one crystal, that's fine. You can just work with the one you have. That's the one that you need right now. And don't worry too much about having all the right ones or all the ones I'm talking about. These are just guides if you are looking to invest in any way. So normally I would pass the crystals through the smoke one by one. These were all cleaned before I began, so I'm not going to do every single one on screen with you now because it will just take too long. But I'm just activating and cleansing the grid as a whole. They've been cleansed individually and now I'm inviting them to work together as a team, to work with my energy and with your energy watching this video, to assist us in the journey that we need to go on today, to assist us in unlocking the potential of this moon, unlocking its messages and its insights. Okay. I did also want to mention briefly while we're talking about stones or crystals. I'm saying stones a lot today. I don't know why. I'm going to get annoyed when people do that. I've recently been investing quite a lot in palm stones. So for anyone who is looking at crystal purchases, as well as your raw, your points, I mean there's so many different types. Tumblers is your cheap, easy investment to have volume so you can work with gridding a bit more. But palm stones do what they say on the tin. They can be fairly small, like this little Labradorite. You can actually see the colour of Labradorite a lot better on that one. Just sit kind of right in the centre of the palm. I've got this quite pleasing heavy Lepidolite, so these are both crystals that are featured on our grid already. Or this carnelian is one of the kind of bigger size that you might get. You can just close your fingers around. So people often ask me how they use crystals or how can they use crystals when meditating. And if you haven't got a lot, if you're not making a grid, if the gridding doesn't speak to you, then just finding one or two crystals that do and investing in a palm or thumb stone, which is this kind of size, just sits really nicely as you meditate. They don't roll out of your hand because of the way they're shaped. They are always polished, obviously, so if that doesn't speak to you, then feel free to try something else. But the palm stones can be a really nice way of bringing that energy directly in through the meridians in the hand, directly up to the heart to really amplify it. So at the moment I'm working with this Lepidolite and Labradorite personally in my meditations in each hand like this, and it's a really powerful way to work. So let's pop all of these out of the way. So that is your crystal grid. So if you guys have any questions, if you want to ask about the crystals, if you want me to repeat anything or run through anything, let me know and I can reply to you on the chat as we're going through this film and let you know any more details that you need. I did mean to mention there's a couple of other Pisces crystals if you are wanting to stick with the classic Pisces. So a lot of them we've covered: Amethyst, Ametrine, Aquamarine, clear quartz, the master healer. If you're only going to have one crystal, that's probably the best one to start with. Labradorite, Lepidolite we've got on the board, black onyx, and then carnelian, which is traditionally actually seen exactly as I've been alluding to today, as this kind of fire energy that we need to balance up all of that water in the Pisces vibration. So, water rituals. So I'm a water sign and I do love a water ritual. Not that I only take baths on the full on your moon, I hasten to add, but I make sure I always do a ritual bath over the moon. And these are not just, just having a bath because it's a moon day, but it's actually very specifically, not adding bubble bath or, any of my nice oils. It's about really consciously creating a cleansing environment, a cleansing ritual space. So it's really important when you're doing a ritual bath to gather everything you need before you start. So once you're in the room with the water and you're kind of with it and honouring it. And I like to run a kind of a not too hot bath. You know, when you do a really hot bath and then you just get really sweaty and boiling, get out, you have to lie down for ages because you're too hot. You want to avoid that. This is a healing, cleansing, purifying experience. So something a bit more lukewarm, towards the cooler end of what you would normally go for. Whilst running the bath, it's good from the very beginning to speak to the water, to tell it that this is your full moon ritual, and you're here to close the cycle, to close the circle, to honour the moon, to honour the high tides, the high liquid content of our bodies, of the world. For women, it's, you know, our natural flow time, our natural period time, that come with the full moon. So we're really working with those liquid energies and the transformative, positive elements of water. It's, you know, it's a hugely transitionary, fluid element. You know, it creates more change, more continuously than anything else. Can cut through anything. And it's really interesting, you know, water can put out fire, it can dampen earth. It's really can cut through earth if it's harder, cut through rock. You know, look at all these water polished crystals, for example. So it's really, really a powerful element, and it's magical when you're running your ritual bath to honour that, to thank it for its power, and to ask for its support in helping you to use that power of water moving forward. I'm working with a particular blend that I've made up for this month, and I'm going to do a separate Instagram IGTV post about that, which will be on my feed in the next couple of days, so you can have a look at what I've made for the bath blend. But as a general rule, I always use salts as a base, so I use a mixture of Epsom and Himalayan pink salts. And for this moon, I'm going to be quite luxurious, because I feel like we just need a bit of a hug. Like, it's been such a turbulent, difficult few months. And I know personally I found this last month really challenging, and it's been hard going. So I think we want to give ourselves a bit of luxury, a bit of an opportunity to be comfortable going inwards, to make this a nice journey, an enjoyable journey. Shadow work can be hard, and we want to give ourselves space to really embrace it for the joy it can bring us, as well as the challenges that come up on the way. So that in mind, I'm adding coconut milk and honey to my blend at the moment. So coconut milk, not the thin runny sort. I mean, you could use that. You could use the sort you put in your coffee. But I'm getting the tins of coconut milk and skimming off the thick bit at the top and then whipping it up. So it's kind of like coconut cream. It's almost like a body lotion texture, actually. And then I'm using some raw honey, which I get locally. So you get local organic if you can. Mixing them together, they make this kind of really lovely slushy gunge. And then they go in the bowl with the salts, and then we add the oils. So the oils I'm working with, which is what I'm just playing with here, is lavender, patchouli and peppermint, which sounds like a really crazy combination. It kind of is. Lavender for calm. You know, we really need quite a bit of calm during this moon. There's a lot of energy, a lot of sensitivity. We feel vulnerable. Lavender is well known. That's one of the reasons I suggested it for the smudge as well. Well known for its ability to calm, to soothe, to ease the nervous system, and to promote a more relaxed and still approach. It's why we use it for bedtime and almost everything, from tea to pillow mist. Patchouli, on the other hand, is also very water affiliated. It's the ultimate kind of scorpionic scent, and as a Scorpio sun, it's one I associate with a lot. It is quite Marmite. People tend to love it or hate it, and you kind of know if you wrinkle your nose when you go into those crystal shops with all the incense going. But I also think that this Pisces moon could benefit from a little bit of kind of sacral va-va-voom. You know, the sacral chakra is the seat of emotions and feelings, but it's also the seat of creativity and sexuality and sensuality. And I think the Pisces energy tends to really promote this sort of heavy, you know, backward expression in lots of ways. And actually the sacral area has a whole other side to it as well. You know, it's the yang to the yin. So I think I'm trying to bring in a bit of the sort of Scorpio water, with some patchouli in here. A bit heady, a bit sort of incensey, a bit sensual. And again, that ties into that kind of honey and coconut cream vibe. And then peppermint, which is go really easy on. You need like probably 2 drops, just a tiny little bit, otherwise it takes over. Peppermint's so clarifying. We know it's a great cleanser. It's really zingy, really refreshing. It helps you just see clearly. And one of the amazing things with Pisces energy is in the full moon energy as a whole, is we really are being invited to see clearly, to really open our eyes, open our third eye, open our inner eyes, and really explore what's in there, and really kind of dig past all the stuff that's been building up over the year, harvest what we need, release what we don't, surrender, find gratitude for it all. And I think peppermint has this immediate kind of smelling salts kind of impact, which is reduced when you just use a tiny bit, but it just offers clarity. And it is, you just feel so clean, don't you, after you had mint of any sort. So so I'm really into that at the moment. It sounds a bit weird, lavender, patchouli and peppermint, but I promise try it. If you happen to live near water, look for water mint as well. And if, again, mint's something you can grow in your garden. When I do this for my bath tonight, I'll also be adding some fresh lavender and fresh water mint from my garden to the bath. And I mean, you can always add any other flowers you like. It's really beautiful to add blooms to your ritual bath when you are in season for them. So for the purposes of this ritual, I'm just taking the oil I've just blended and taking it across my pulse points. And as I do that, I'm thinking about the energies I've just described. So promoting calm and stillness and reduced anxiety. I'm thinking about adding a little of the powerful aspects of water, as well as that kind of much deeper, kind of more super emotional side. And I'm also looking at clarity. I'm also taking this across my feet. I'm spending a lot of time working with the feet at the moment. And peppermint is a really, really good scent for feet. There's another really good Pisces one I like, which is lemon with peppermint. And you can make really beautiful foot sprays and soaks out of that. But it's really nice to work with the feet. Pisces does rule over the feet, so it's nice to really spend time connecting with where your feet are taking you. Get your feet in water. So those are the oils I'm using. I'm going to keep those out. Just trying to tidy my space as I go to keep my ritual organised. So as I said, I will share that ritual bath blend in more detail on IGTV, so do have a look for that, and I'll put it on the blog as well. Journaling and intention, so important in all ritual. For me, this is becoming increasingly fundamental to the work I'm doing, and I really want to encourage you, if you're not a regular journaler, to pick up a diary, pick up a notebook. It can be one line a day. There's some amazing tools out there. You know, there's lots and lots of journals and kind of notebooks designed to assist you in taking journaling practice deeper, and to really explore those resources. So I really encourage you to connect with one of those if you feel like you need some help on your journaling journey. And I mean, I've got many different journals for different things, but I still have one which is a 5-minute journal, which is 3 things I'm grateful for today, 1 thing that would make today great, and in the evening you write 3 great things that happened. And gratitude is a really good emotion to work with over the full moon. You know, being grateful for this cycle, even though it's been quite heavy and challenging in lots of ways, and it's bringing us to that kind of emphatic end. You know, there's so much to harvest. There's so much goodness to come out of the cycle as well. And I think, you know, one of the reasons Pisces energy can often be quite difficult is that it tends to look at the stuff that's come up that's not so positive. You know, there might be one negative thing that's happened in a sea of amazing things, and it's really important to see all those amazing things, to be grateful for them, to acknowledge them, and to thank them, and then also just to surrender the things that haven't been so great that you don't need. It can be quite bipolar, Pisces energy, so we want to try and make sure that we're seeing both sides, you know, working with yin and yang, with left and right, that we're working in a really binaural way, which actually black tourmaline does. That's really great at balancing the left and right sides of the brain. And yeah, really, you're really finding that balance, bringing it back to what I said about Ayurveda. You know, actually there's so many different elements that make us up, and we really need to make sure that we're working with all of them. So, you know, for example, if you're already feeling quite fiery, maybe you don't need the patchouli in that oil, maybe you need chamomile instead. You know, if you're feeling super, super flat, then maybe rather than lavender, you might want to put some ginger in it, or something a bit more zingy, or grapefruit maybe, something citrusy, to lift you up a little bit, to give you a boost. So these are frameworks and guidelines for you to take away and work with as you choose. So that in mind, let's move on, because I have no idea how long I've been chatting at you for, but I'm sure it's quite long enough. So hopefully you're all set in your ritual space now. I wanted to just quickly look at some cards, but I think what we'll do is do a little bit of breath work first, and then we'll come back to the cards. So I'm going to grab my cushion. I do lots of like floating around, I feel like, when I'm sat here with you guys. Grab my cushion so I can sit a little better with my painful knee. You of course can sit in any way that you like for meditation. I'm still sitting cross-legged, even though I've got a terribly dodgy knee, and I probably shouldn't, but I am sitting up on a cushion, as you can see, and that lifts my hips higher than my knees, which first of all takes the pressure out of the joints. So if you are struggling with either weak or injured hips or knees, this is a nice way to maintain a comfortable seat without putting pressure on. And if you do struggle to sit cross-legged, then getting your hips up high really helps. Pile up a load of books, sit on a couple of cushions. You don't have to sit cross-legged. If you would like to lie down or just kneel or sit with your legs out, I often kneel against the sofa with my legs out like a little girl, and that's really comfortable too. Comfort's the most important thing in meditation, otherwise you cannot find stillness if you're being distracted by pins and needles. I'm working so much with tuning forks again after a bit of a hiatus. This is one of the things that's hard to do online, because this is really about pure vibration in the sense that we work with sound that you can feel rather than hear. Human hearing runs from 20 to 20,000 hertz. Most of the forks I use are right at the lower end of that. These are two of the highest, and they're only at kind of 250 and 380 hertz. So you'll be able to hear these, but mostly you can't on screens and on videos. So if you've never experienced tuning forks in person, I really, really encourage you to. If you are in Cornwall and watching this local to me, I have more group sessions coming up, as well as one-to-one opportunities that you know about. And really, the amount of one-to-ones I've done recently where the forks have been the thing that people really take away as transformational is amazing. So I encourage you to explore them. They're all about getting into your biomagnetic field, your auric field, which can be magnified, doubled in fact, by clear quartz. So have a bit of clear quartz nearby. The ones that have a weight on the end, like this, are used physically on the body, and they are almost equivalent to having a session with an osteopath or a chiropractor, in fact. They get in there and they sort of vibrate and shake the bones, the muscles, the nerves. This particular one we're going to use, the 50 hertz, that's the frequency that your brain fires along the nervous system. So it's kind of like getting out of bed and shaking your duvet off in the morning. You can get up and give yourself a little blast with a 50 hertz, and it's like shaking your nervous system off. It's really powerful. So do take the opportunity to try these if you can. If you do receive the Rock and Ritual boxes, I hope you'll be thrilled to know that there will be a tuning fork in the one that I'm going to post out to you this week. The Virgo box includes a tuning fork for you to work with at home. There's one a little bit smaller than this actually, so it's pretty sizable. And I really hope you're going to have some amazing experiences with that. I think you're going to love it. If you do not have the Virgo box and you would like to order one, there are still a couple left. And if you're interested in forks but don't want to buy the box, why would you not? I will also be putting some options on the website soon where you can access tuning forks along with a crystal, because another really nice way to work with them is to activate them using your crystal. I don't know if you can even hear on this microphone. I can't really see on my my monitor what you can hear. That's not particularly great sounding crystal actually with this fork, but you can. I will make sure that the ones I put together are awesome. So once you've found your comfortable seat, we're going to just move into a few moments of sacral oriented meditation to really try and unlock this water element. We're going to work particularly with the womb area. If you're a guy and you're watching, don't worry, you don't have to have a womb to do this. Your sacral chakra is kind of in the back of your pelvic bowl, so you can visualize that rather than your womb. For women, I find it's quite nice to visualize the womb itself, but if you are not comfortable with that, if you have had a hysterectomy, if you just don't feel that comfortable with the womb work, then you can just focus on the pelvic area as a whole. So find yourself in stillness, whatever that means for you, and take a deep inhale in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. And one more time, breathing in through the nose, and this time close off the lips and exhale through the nose as well. And perhaps you're working with any crystals that you've chosen to bring into your ritual today, so I'm going to work with my Labradorite and Lepidolite that I showed you earlier. And as you start to connect with any crystals, any other tools that you've chosen, maybe you have a photograph or some flowers or a card or some personal letters or notes, just send your attention to those tools. Thank them for their presence in your ritual. How they feel. Do you feel warmth, connection? Are they tingling or vibrating in your hands or in your auric field if you're not holding them? Thank them for their guidance in advance, and if you work with guides and spirits, you can work with them at this point also in gratitude. take a moment to ask. To ask the question that you're looking for an answer to today. And remember, you're asking yourself as much as an external force or spirit or guide. But then you're asking whatever tools you're working with, your crystals, whatever else, for their assistance in helping you to intuit the answer to your own question. Pisces full moon has a huge amount of sensitive energy, but that does make it really powerful for intuitive inward work. And we want to harness those really positive, powerful aspects of this lunar vibration to assist us on our own journey. Breath remain neutral. Try not to attach too much focus to it now. Let it just breathe. Let your body just breathe and take care of itself. You'll probably notice your breath slowing down a little. And as you sit in stillness, see if you can bring your awareness to an intention. Not a question this time, but an intention or mantra or affirmation if you prefer. Your intention is really your guide for your sound journey today, so it's all about finding a pathway, a dharma. And your sound journey, as always, can be restorative and relaxing, deeply meditative, or it can be more trance-like and potentially hallucinogenic or even psychedelic. And which way it goes for you is really about your intention, what you're bringing into the experience, what your question is, what you're looking to manifest, to harvest, to surrender, both in this session and in this lunar vibration. So just take a moment, maybe you want to write something down. And if you're struggling to come up with something, there's an opportunity to say, what am I surrendering, what am I harvesting, what am I grateful for over this moon? And then perhaps choose one of those on which to focus your intention. If you're holding anything in your palms, just release them gently now. And I invite you to bring your hands together as if in a prayer, but have your fingers pointing downwards and bring the point down towards the earth. So it can feel a bit kooky in the shoulders, so you might want to roll your shoulders out a few times. And then gently open up your palms, but keep the fingertips and the thumbs touching, so you're making a kind of a V shape, pointing downwards over the womb area. And send your focus down to the space between your palms. See if you can really feel the tingling or the heat or the energy there. If you've been working with crystals, you probably have some fire in the palms already. And as you breathe in, really breathe in from this space in the sacral area. Breathe in all its inner wisdom, its feminine wisdom, whichever gender you identify with. We each have yin and yang, male and female. And Pisces energy, lunar energy, is really deeply yin, very female. And we connect with the feminine chakra, with the sacral chakra, to harness this energy. On your next inhale, draw the V up your body to your heart as you inhale. Turning the hands into a prayer in front of the heart and then lift them up over your head. And as you reach over your head, you're going to go back into that mudra with the palms apart, thumbs touching. I've gone so high on the camera you can't see, but my hands are here. And then as you exhale, bring the palms together, bringing the palms back through the central line of the body. As you reach your heart, turn the fingertips downwards and reach back into the mudra, back in front of the sacral area. Inhaling to come up. Exhaling as you close the palms and travel back towards the sacral region. And what we're really trying to do with this little mudra is to connect our sacral region to our crown. To connect this center of the water element with our center of intuition, a deep soul with higher awareness, with ascension. So you can carry on with that movement, with that mudra, for as long as feels good for you. If you do happen to have tuning forks or anything you like to work with to open your meditation, I encourage you to introduce them into your space now. And picking up on this theme we mentioned of balance, of balancing the elements within us, of balancing left and right, male and female sides of the brain and body. So we're working in a binaural way, and that's why I really love to use tuning forks. To balance left brain and right brain. To demonstrate for anyone that is fortunate enough to have a 50 Hertz fork knocking around at home, or who's going to receive the Rock and Ritual box, I place this one just an inch or so below the collarbone. 50 Hertz is the frequency that the brain fires on the nervous system, so as I mentioned, this is a really fantastic vibration for clearing out the nervous system. And I'm really using this a lot at the moment as we move through this very sensitive, heightened full moon energy. I find forks such a calming and soothing tool, and this particular fork in this particular place is really great in terms of managing anxiety down. So I really encourage you to explore vibrations. If you don't have a fork, I'm pretty sure there's apps you can get, and I'm very sure there's websites where you can simply play frequencies, which I didn't think to organise before this session, but I will seek them out and I will put them on my various channels. So if you would like to experience a vibrationary hertz through the web, I'm sure there'll be a way to do it. I'll find one for you. So we take our breath deep into our belly again. If you're continuing with the mudra, you can begin to bring it to a close now, bringing the mudra, which is mudra means kind of like hand yoga effectively. It's shapes we make with our hands to invoke certain energies and feelings. Bringing the mudra back down to the sacral region. And perhaps just working through a little prayer of gratitude internally, thanking the element of water, the season of Pisces and this full moon for all of the opportunities they afford us to go deep into our shadow, deep into our inner landscape, our intuitive landscape, our yin side. And thanking them for the opportunity to seek out and connect with our inner wisdom, for the opportunity to walk our shadow path and to learn the lessons that it needs to offer us, for the alchemy and the insights that full moon season always affords us, particularly in a very deep water sign. Taking a moment to come back from your meditation. Just a little ping, a little chime to get you back in the room. So the last thing I want to share with you before we move into the main sound session this evening is just a little look at the seasonal tarot, just very briefly. So as you know, each zodiac sign has a corresponding tarot card. And the one that corresponds to Pisces is the moon of the major arcana, which I'll show you here. This is the moon from the Moonchild Tarot, which is the one I've selected today. It's a beautiful deck. I mean, I really love the artwork. I don't actually use it that much for my own readings, maybe because it just, I don't know, it is not my deck yet. I've got, I think, about 25 tarot decks or tarot and oracle options, and although I really love this one, the cards are very heavy, but I really like it for ritual. It feels really powerful for ritual, and the moon card is particularly beautiful. Again, I'll be posting a picture of this in close-up on my Instagram so you can see it properly, but you can see at the bottom there's these two kind of wolves, one white and one dark. This idea of binary and polarity, opposites facing each other, and then the cycles of the moon through the centre from light to dark. So it's really emblematic of this very cyclical nature that we experience with the moon, and the reason I love doing these sessions and that I work both these sessions, my work, my career and my personal life in tune with the moon, is the opportunity to always go on a journey from new through to completion, through to full. And I think maybe next month we'll do a bit of work on all the interim kind of energies and what they all represent as we go through waxing, waning, gibbous, crescent, balsamic. So the moon is the card that we're working with most prominently. When I was working with the cards this morning, the Seven of Cups kept falling out. Like I'd shuffled the cards a few times and it just kept coming out. And when you drop a card a lot, or a card really drops, it really wants to come out of the deck, it's often really good to have a look, because it normally, there's something, especially if you're already turning on your intuition, there's probably something in that. And Seven of Cups is really interesting. It's about the journey of life. You can see all the different cups and all these different options, making choices. You know, there's so many tempting choices here, and some of them are illusory and some of them are real. And this is really a card that's about a journey of decision making and options. And I just thought that was really interesting as we arrive in a new season and we get to the end of a cycle and you have to decide what to keep and what to let go. I really like that card popped up, so I've decided to keep him out, and we're going to put our activated tourmaline across these cards. So the last thing I'm going to do, and it's so hard to shuffle these cards, they are like the thickest cards in the world. I love them and they're so beautiful at the back of them, so beautiful, but they are very hard to shuffle, so bear with me for my not so perfect shuffling today. And as always, when you're working with Tarot or Oracle, we're not looking to seek the future. We're not asking, should I marry that guy? Should I leave my boyfriend? How do I get thin? We are asking the cards to show us what we need to know, to help us tap into our own intuition and find the answers that lie within in our subconscious. They are tools for working inwards. So I am asking this deck, as I work with it now, to give me an additional piece of guidance, an additional message for our session together. I'm picking the number 3 instinctively and taking the third card from the deck. And the card I've selected is the Four of Swords, which is interesting. It's an air card. And she's meditating, peaceful, sitting atop a waterfall in the light of the moon. And I like that this is an air card, because air, as I mentioned, is the element that I know I'm missing the most, and it's the one I feel is the most important perhaps to harness into this season. Interesting, I like that card. So we're going to prepare for our main sound session together now. I'll tell you a little bit more about the Four of Swords and the rest of the cards that have come up for us in this session later on. If you've picked your own card and you want to share it with the group on the chat and let us know what you've got and what you think about that, then please do so. And we'll just take a moment or two for everyone to get comfy. So as always with sound, be warm. No matter how warm or cool it is where you are, your body will always drop a couple of degrees and feel distinctly colder and maybe shivery by the end of a sound bath. Whether you're in the room or not, it's always more visceral in the room, but remember that it can easily happen online, so make sure you get a blanket, get cozy if you're on or in bed, even better, lucky you. Make sure your feet are warm. As I mentioned, Pisces does rule the foot area, and they can become quite cold and quite challenged over this moon, so make sure your feet are cozy. And make sure you've got some water or a lovely tea near you as well for hydration. Take a moment to get settled, and we'll begin in a few moments when I've just reset the camera so you can see all the bowls and gongs. And we'll begin with our guided meditation through the sacral region into the gongs. Don't forget that the sound will always seek out any areas of blockage. So if you are carrying physical, emotional, mental or spiritual blockages, it may well be that the sound goes there first. Don't be alarmed. If you feel discomfort or activity in the area, that is the sound, the vibration working to release the blockage. So do try and stay with it as much as is possible within the bounds of comfort. Remember, you can always move around as much as you need to. It is quite nice to stay lying with your back straight so that Kundalini has the opportunity to rise should it be ready to. But you can do whatever's most important for you, which is to stay comfortable. So take a few moments to settle, and we'll begin with the sound in just a moment. Okay, so we're just going to come back to our breath as we get settled and start preparing spiritually for today's journey, remembering that sound is always the journey you want it to be. People always ask me about the, are they definitely going to have hallucinations? Are they going to have visions or see something or hear voices? And if you feel that's the journey you want to go on today, then there's every chance that'll be what you experience. But if it's not something you're looking for, if you're looking more for rest and relaxation, some inner calm, some stillness, then that's what you'll experience too. So just taking this time to reconnect and reaffirm with the intention you've been forming over our session together so far. I'm just taking this chance to re-cleanse, to reconnect with the space we've been creating together. I'm just going to begin by working with our grid, and I've just moved the camera slightly so you guys that are watching can have a better view of the gongs and the bowls for those of you who like to actually observe it in action. But I'm just working now with the grid, bringing my hand over the center point, over that smoky amethyst, that grounding earthy energy that we selected. And now just switching the grid on, calling in the power from my Reiki channel and from that which we share together, all of us in this space and in this group. And one of the reasons I keep these sessions, these full-length sessions closed, is that we can harness energy in a group where it's kind of a bit smaller and less sporadic, a little more constructively this way. So I'm pleased to welcome all of you here into the sound space. Thank you all for your presence. I wish you all a beautiful full moon journey, celebrating this Pisces energy of emotion, sensitivity, vulnerability, and a chance to really reevaluate, to take a step back from whatever it is that hasn't been serving or maybe is time to be released, and really use this moon to arrive at some clear, concise, succinct decisions. And we're working with the moon card, with the Seven of Cups, and with the Four of Swords, which are all cards about pathways and choices, making decisions. So perhaps if you're still working for an intention, maybe something about clarity of decision making would be good for you today. So as you settle into your body and you feel the earth support and hold you, notice any parts of your body which are calling for your attention, which are calling for focus, anything that's drawing your attention, whether in a positive or less positive way, sending love and breath and light to those areas. And gently allowing the sense of water to rush through you and over you and around you. Maybe you're floating, or maybe you're swimming, or maybe you're about to dive, maybe off a waterfall or something dramatic. Feeling yourself connected to water in whatever way feels good for you. Gently feeling that powerful, transformative element as the water laps at your cheekbones, brushes tips of your toes as they bob in and out of the surface of the water. Maybe you're in an ocean or a lake, maybe a river. Just choose a body of water that feels comfortable for you, and as you float, lying on your back, take your awareness down to the space around the hips, the pelvic region, the womb. This area, the sacral area, is the part of the physical body where the water element manifests itself. It's the seat of our yin energy, our feminine energy, our liquid flow. See if you can see any colours here, maybe something kind of orange, or maybe it's more of like a milky white or a soft gold. Colours make sense for you in this space, and then maybe think about shapes, maybe a diamond, or a shape like a pair of lips, or a shape like a heart, or maybe the traditional crescent moon, the 2 points pointing downwards. Find your own way to connect and revision this aspect of your being. Feel your blood pumping in and out of this area of the physical body. Feel your breath flowing in and out. Notice your feelings, your emotions. How do you feel? Are you anxious? Are you angry? Are you frustrated? Is everything really hard right now, like wading through rapidly setting concrete, or does it feel easy? However you feel, bank that emotion, bank that feeling in this area, in the sacral region. Notice how it makes you feel elsewhere in your body. And now notice how this fits with your intention. How does your intention make you feel? Water is pure transformation, pure transition. Just as we're working with stones of transition today, like Lepidolite and Aquamarine, we're working with grounding energy too in our Smoky Quartz, and with intuitive energy in our Amethyst. And you can choose to draw on any of these energies that will help you support your work in your own sacral area. Continue to imagine that you're floating further and further from land, but there's no panic or anxiety, just gradually you become aware of yourself still floating out there in the water, in the ocean, the sea, the river, wherever you chose, in the still glassy water. Knowing that just like our emotions, our feelings, our Piscean energy, that energy that's in all of us regardless of our sun sign, the water can be ferocious and powerful and thunderous. Lungfuls of fresh, cool air, and the water skims your body and feels velvety smooth and at one with your physical being. And now gently you find yourself arriving at shore, the water waist deep and then thigh deep, and knee deep. And now you're walking out of the water, feeling it drip from your hair and your shoulders and your nose. And you find yourself back on the shore, your feet grounded, connected to earth, and wherever you are, really feel your own connection to earth again. The parts where your body is touching ground, be it your shoulder blades, your pelvis, your heels. Child of the earth as well as of the water. And as you find yourself back on ground, on earth, reflecting on your journey, reflecting on your experience, banking any images, any words, any messages, any intuition that came into you that's coming into you now. Something you feel as much as you hear, and especially during the turbulent waters of a Pisces full moon, sometimes the most sacred sound is silence. Coming back to your body by moving your fingers and toes. Allowing some small rotations into the wrists and the ankles. Allowing your head to gently drop side to side, nothing too dramatic, just allowing the movements back in slowly. When you're ready, take a nice deep breath all the way in through the nose, feeling the lungs expand, feeling the belly fill and lift. Exhale through the lips, waking your breath back up, coming back into the tangible physical body. Perhaps if you're working with essential oils, now is a nice time to reconnect with those, to take them across your pulse points, through your jawline. A few deep breaths, bringing your senses back to life, and this is one of the reasons I love to work with essential oils and sacred smoke. All of these scents and fragrances are so evocative in our system, and they take us to places that we can only dream of. I'm also using some Reiki mist today. It's really beautiful to clear an often heavy space. I'm using rose, palo santo, frankincense and a little quartz, and that's for the body as well as for the space. So welcome back everyone, how are you? I hope you're reconnecting after your sound journey. It was quite peaceful today. I think the energy of this sort of this heaviness that I'm feeling, maybe heavy is the wrong word, just slightly oppressive amount of sensitivity and a little bit of edginess still, despite the beautiful sun and a few extra moments of fire here and there. It does feel like we just need to be a bit delicate with ourselves and protect our space, protect our energy, be mindful of how we're sharing and how we're putting ourselves out there in the world, especially when tensions might be running high over the moon and things could easily be misinterpreted. So yeah, it felt quite soft and gentle. I didn't feel the need to go too big or too shouty during a lot of that session. There was just a few moments where I could feel the feel in the channels that it felt right to get a little more bombastic. So yeah, I'm interested to know how you feel. I felt a bit different to my normal sessions. I'll have to listen back to identify how, but it definitely felt like it didn't need to be as big. So we'll see. So when I pulled the Four of Swords as our guide card for this session, it was interesting because she's I'll show you a bit close to the camera. Beautiful girl sitting in meditation, in contemplation, and there's one sword beneath her and three above her, and they kind of remind me of the three crosses, hanging like crucifixes, like old challenges or old crosses to be borne, as the adage goes. And there's still this one underneath her, and the Four of Swords is a tradition from the Air Suite, is traditionally a card of letting go, of challenges, of kind of resolution, re-evaluating, reviewing where you are, reviewing what still needs to be done so that you can move forward. And this is really an ideal card for all of the themes I've been talking about today. Our subject here has got this one sword that she's still meditating on, literally in this case. She's still trying to evaluate what it means, where it's going, what the various outcomes could be. And under the light of the full moon, she's gaining the opportunity to rise this sword up with the others so they can sit in the category of past challenges and the things that are dealt with rather than things still on the to-do list. Now this really resonates for me. I feel like it's been, as I said at the very top of this session, over an hour and a half ago, it's been a very long and challenging summer for all of us in so many different ways. I've got friends who've been still working full-time but from home in very different circumstances, and they've been frustrated that their workload seems to have tripled while members of their team were on furlough. And there's many people who simply haven't been able to work at all for one reason or another, many people whose home life has been completely disrupted and whose income has, and I definitely probably put myself into all of those categories. It's been a wonderful opportunity to grow this new kind of wild off-grid space in response to not being able to use the spaces that I always have done. But it's presented a whole bunch of new trials and challenges, not least the delivery of online sessions, which has been phenomenally hard actually, and really difficult to constantly feel like you're letting people down or simply not able to deliver, usually due to things out of your own control. It's really quite quite difficult, and I've been ploughing through it a lot. And actually the Four of Swords is a card that I've been coming to in terms of reevaluating and moving forward and deciding to stop fixating on stuff that is just cannot be fixed as in the past, and instead looking forward and looking to release stuff that's simply weighing down or no longer serving. So I hope that's of some use to you as well. These sessions are always designed to really offer you various portals and tools with which to explore your inner landscape, your yin landscape. For some people, they find it really instructive to work with crystals or with cards or both. Some people simply want to lie down and enjoy the sound, and you're welcome, of course, to do any or all of those things, or to take them in parts and do them in different times. We were a bit heavier today on the ritual. There was slightly less time on the sounds because I realised when I paused to reset the camera that I'd spent so long on crystals that I didn't really have as long as I normally do for sound. So I hope that you all found some benefits in the additional ritual section up front. If you have any questions, please fire them into the chat so I can answer them for you while I'm on the chat with you. If you have any personal questions, of course, feel free to get in touch. As I've been trying to share on various mediums and platforms, my current situation is that I'm working mostly 5 days a week up here at my teepee, my sound space, which means I don't have access to internet while I'm here. And all that means is that I've got a lot less time to answer emails and to get back to people than I'm used to having. So I'd never put any kind of out of office on to let people know this, and I probably should have done because I realise I'm getting really behind now. But if you do have personal questions, I will prioritise anything that's come from this session in the next day or so. So please do feel free to be in touch. If you have questions about the crystals or anything else I've used today, I'm going to put a little bit of a rundown in the notes for this video that I send around to everyone who's registered. And of course, if there's anything in particular you'd like to explore, just let me know. So thank you all for your attention and indeed for your patience in accessing these sessions. I know it's not always easy, and I do apologise. I want to be able to share with you as organically and authentically as I can, and that sometimes is hard given the current situation. But I really hope that it's coming across, and that my passion for what I do is coming across to you nonetheless. One-to-ones are still available if you want to explore in more detail. I can do these online. I'm doing them at my TP, the space I'm in right now. So if you are local, if you'd like to visit Cornwall, there are places you can stay here, both on grid and off. If you would like to come to group sessions, they are resuming from the 19th of September in person in Newquay. The first 2 are already sold out, but more will be announced. Please keep an eye on the website. And gradually I will be looking to bring back retreats and events which are more kind of globally available in terms of people coming to visit. But at the moment, the definite feel seems to be that people don't really want to travel or take part in retreat environments. So if you do, please let me know, because I'm looking to putting dates in for next year. But at the moment, we're finding that most things that are going in are having to be cancelled if they're this side of Christmas. So I'd really like to try and respond to what it is people are looking for. So please let me know your thoughts. Finally, Rock and Ritual is also suffering slightly from my off-gridness, but the Virgo boxes will be delivered this week, and we have a few left. So if you are interested in receiving a box which contains aspects of everything I produce in the Soundscape, so the new one will have a few crystals, it will have a tuning fork, it has a beautiful oil burner and the blend that I've used today to share with you. And this is really an opportunity for you to kind of create your own rituals at home, to create your own sacred space. And to find your own way into this important work of self-exploration and meditation. So, no more chat. Thank you all so much for your attention, for your awareness, for your presence. I thank you for sharing your energy with me, regardless of timelines or when you watch this or when I record it. I'm sending this out and very much creating it in the spirit of sharing community. So the energy is there regardless of when you're watching. Thank you ever so much. If you have questions, let me know. Namaste.